What is going on, everybody? It is the Racket Guru here. Happy New Year. Happy 2025, everybody. I hope everybody had a wonderful holiday season. I hope everybody had an awesome New Year celebration. To get into it, we're reviewing the Yonex EZone 100, slated to release later on this month. And I gotta say that I wasn't really impressed with this racket. I think that there's really no reason for you guys to upgrade from the previous edition to this edition. I have my bone to pick with it, but there are a few things that did change with it. Luca from Rackets and Runners covered pretty much all of it, so I'm not really going to get into that. I will say, though, that you definitely feel the differences, you feel the changes. The specs and stuff will be in the description. So without further ado, let's get into the review. So with this racket, basically what we're looking at is a wider beam, wider string pattern. It's got a much thicker beam. It's wider on the top like a V-core, but then you also have the VDM plus MINOLON, which is like a bagworm silk that dampens the frame even more than it already was. Now, if you like Yonex frames, you're going to like this because you like that muted feel of the VDM. I can't see myself switching to it. It's not a bad racket by any means. Racket is just not for me. Now, as far as the ground strokes from the baseline, this is a baseliner's racket. There's really not anything else that it does particularly crazy perfect. Between the forehand, the volleys, and the serve, they're probably like the three best things for me anyway, but it wasn't amazing at all of those things because the feel is very muted and the sweet spot is so large that there's basically no sweet spot at all. Kind of like when you have too much of something, it becomes like as if you don't have it at all. So they extended the sweet spot out and made it so that the sweet spot is so lost in the frame that you don't really know where you're contacting the ball. It's comfortable because it's not as stiff as its previous edition, but I wish that they would have actually shrunk down the sweet spot so you get that satisfying feeling of knowing you hit it in the sweet spot. With that being said, being able to swing freely on the forehand is a must. You absolutely have to be able to swing out on that ball because you need that swing speed. With a 314 swing weight, you need all of the power you can get. It does offer quite a bit of power because of the open string pattern and the thickness of the beam, but you do feel how clunky it is through the air because of how thick that beam is. Backhand, much flatter shot, much easier shot to hit with this racket because it wants to launch. So if you naturally have a flatter swing path, you're gonna enjoy it on your backhand side because it does give you a little bit extra lift and a bit more margin for error. Now, moving towards the net, really it's going to be just about keeping your swing speed up. This is going to be one of those things where trying to get to the net was a weird one because you have to kind of tone it down or flatten out your shot by a lot, and then trying to do pickup volleys and stuff like that from coming to the net launches the ball a bit more than you want to. It's not exactly ideal for trying to wail on the ball as you're coming in, especially if you're trying to hit certain angles. You're trying to just keep it in a place where it's not going to just come flying to the fence. I mentioned earlier in the video, volleys are kind of where this racket shines. Volleys and serves primarily. Once you get up to the net, because you're not being kind of bogged down by how chunky the frame is, it is very maneuverable, being it's only 300 grams and swing weight's 314 and most of that weight is in the handle. you do get a very nice sensation when you're at the net and just blocking back volleys. It doesn't do well on touch volleys though because of how open that string pattern is, and there's almost like zero pocketing when it comes to the net. You do get a very nice feeling up at net because you do move your hand pretty quickly, but if you're moving your body forward through that ball, you can kind of almost feel the ball right in that, like where it actually feels like it has a sweet spot. So it's very interesting that this racket plays really well at net, but doesn't quite give you the same sensation or feeling that you get like when you're on the baseline of just kind of like being lost in the sweet spot. And now my favorite shot with this frame was the serve. You can serve kick serves, slice serves, and flat serves with this. All like it does all of them really, really well. You can hit all of your angles as long as you keep your swing speed up on the serve. You pretty much can achieve anything with this racket when you're serving. It adds a little bit of pop because of how light it is. You can swing it really quickly, but the wideness of the frame allows you to really plow through that ball. So for returns, it suffers from the same issue as the short balls and basically those shots moving towards the net, is that you really need to keep that swing speed up and you need to flatten it out a bit, because if not, you do tend to launch the ball a bit. On the backhand, it's on the backhand because there's not a whole lot of stability on the backhand side when it comes to returns. If my dad had been serving any harder, I probably would have shanked a lot of these. Just because the frame does move a little bit when you're completely stationary and you're trying to generate your own pace. It doesn't slice well. You do have to shorten up your slice a lot and just almost like block it back and let the racket just stay there. But I do think that you'll like this if you're coming from a clash or you're coming from wanting to go from an oversized racket to a tweener frame, 100 square inch, or if you're just trying to switch to another Yonex. I think that this is perfect.